Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to tackle a huge question. How does a country's massive, ambitious goal actually get turned into real-world action? We're going to follow the path from a big national vision all the way down to a single boots-on-the-ground project.
So, let's just start with this. Imagine a government says, we want to improve the health of all children in our nation. That's an incredible goal, right? But it's also incredibly vague. How do you actually do that? Where do you even begin to make that idea a reality?
Well, it's really a journey from a big idea to a very concrete action. You start with a broad policy, something like promote child health, and you end up with a very specific project, like drill a borehole for clean water. So today, we are going to map out every single step of that critical path.
All right, so that journey begins at the very top. We're talking about the big, guiding ideas that really set a nation's direction. This is where the whole vision is born. It all kicks off with the development policy. Now, you should think of this as the official statement of intent. It's the government putting a stake in the ground and saying, this is what we want to achieve, and this is why it's so important. It's really the foundational what and why of the entire effort.
So from there, that policy gives birth to a development plan. If the policy is the destination you want to get to, the plan is the map. It takes that big vision and starts charting a course, laying out the major routes and strategies we're going to need to get there.
That big plan is then broken down into more manageable chunks. These large-scale things we call programs. So for example, a national health plan might have a very specific primary healthcare program. A program is basically a family of related projects, all working together towards one common goal.
So the crucial thing to remember here is that you can picture this whole process like a funnel. You start at the top, right, with this wide aspirational vision of a national policy. Then it gets channeled into a more focused plan, then a strategic program, and finally, it all gets concentrated down into a specific, actionable project at the bottom.
And that brings us to the sharpest point of the funnel, the project itself. This is the spot where ideas stop being just ideas and become real work that actually changes lives. This, right here, is the engine of change.
So what really makes something a project? Well, the official definition talks about a temporary effort to create something unique. And those two words are key. A project isn't your regular day-to-day work. It's a one-time thing with a very specific outcome in mind. Here is a great, really simple way to think about it. A canteen that makes lunch every single day? That's routine work. But if that very same canteen gets hired to cater a specific wedding on a specific Saturday, that's a project. It's unique, it's temporary, and it has a very clear beginning and end. And that little example perfectly illustrates the two other critical constraints of any project. It has to be done within a specific time frame and a set budget. You don't have forever, and you certainly don't have unlimited money. These constraints are what force focus and really good planning.
Pretty much every project you can imagine follows this same basic life cycle, this same story. It starts with initiation. That's the big, should we even do this decision? Then comes planning, where you map out all the details. Execution is when you're actually doing the work, while monitoring makes sure everything stays on track. And finally, closing, where you wrap it all up and hand it off.
But a project doesn't just run itself, right? It needs someone to steer the ship through that entire life cycle. And this brings us to the absolutely vital role of the project manager.
I love this quote because it really gets at the unique challenge for a project manager. They're not just taking over an existing team that already knows how to work together. No, they are building a team from scratch for a temporary, one-of-a-kind mission. They basically create a mini-organization that only exists for the life of that project. So to be a successful project manager, you need a very specific, very diverse set of skills. The first one, and you could argue it's the foundation, is technical expertise. Now, this doesn't mean they have to be the single greatest expert on the team, but they absolutely have to understand the subject matter well enough to guide the work, to translate technical needs, and to speak credibly about the project to stakeholders and senior leadership. Of course, knowing all the technical details is only half the battle. A project manager has to be an inspiring and effective leader too. And we're talking about more than just giving orders here. This is about setting the tone for the whole project, leading by example, and holding a really high ethical standard. A great project leader can focus the entire team's energy and just sharpen their efforts to hit the project's ultimate goals. The third essential skill, and honestly the one they probably use every single second of the day, is communication.
The project manager is the central hub for all information flowing in and out.
Seriously, think about it. They are constantly talking to someone, the client, their own team, senior leaders, suppliers. They're writing reports, they're giving updates, they're negotiating, they're making sure everyone is on the exact same page. Good, frequent communication is the glue that holds the entire project together.
Okay, let's zoom back out for just a moment, because no project, no matter how well managed it is, exists in a vacuum. It is deeply, deeply embedded in a complex, real-world environment.
And this environment, it's everything. It's the physical landscape, it's the local economy, and the current political climate. And maybe most importantly, it's the socio-cultural norms, the unwritten rules, and even the psychological mindset of the community. All of these things are going to impact the project.
And this quote right here, this is the crucial point of this entire explainer. Projects that are brought in from the outside often fail. And why is that? It's because they weren't designed with a deep, genuine understanding of the local reality. They simply don't fit the community they are supposed to serve.
So, the ultimate takeaway is this. You can have the best policy, the clearest plan, and the most talented project manager on the planet. But if that project isn't grounded in the local context, in the where and the who, it is probably going to fail. Success isn't just about a good plan, it's about listening. Thanks for joining us.